They placed my daughter next to the trash can. A folding chair. No tablecloth. No silverware. Just scraps of wrapping paper and discarded gravy boats behind her. Like she was a mistake they didn't want in the family photo. My name is Jenna. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because I need to ask, have you ever watched your child realize she doesn't matter to the people who are supposed to love her? It was supposed to be our first normal Christmas in years. After the divorce, I'd worked hard to shield Lily from the drama, late nights, tight budgets, lonely birthdays. But this year, my parents invited us. Let's do a full family Christmas again, my mom texted. For the kids. I said yes. Part of me was relieved. Part of me was foolish enough to think maybe, just maybe, they had changed. We arrived early. Lily wore the red dress she picked out herself, with the little silver snowflakes and puffed sleeves. She held a small present in her hands, something she'd made for Grandma. A snow globe with dried petals and glitter she collected herself. My mother barely looked at her. "You're early," she said, frowning. "The ham's not even in." No hug. No Merry Christmas. Just irritation. Lily clutched the gift tighter. When dinner was called, the dining room sparkled. Candles. Centerpieces. Laughter. The good plates. Everyone had a seat with name cards. Except Lily. "Oh," Aunt Sarah said. We didn't realize she'd be joining the adult table. A folding chair was dragged in. Not even at the table. Against the wall. Next to the trash. Nobody batted an eye. Not my mom. Not my brother. Not the cousins. Lily sat silently. Napkin in her lap. Chin trembling. I walked over with my heart thudding. I knelt beside her and whispered, "Are you okay, sweetheart?" She nodded too quickly. Then whispered back, "Can you do the thing you said you'd do if it felt bad again?" And in that moment, the room, the noise, the clinking silver, all of it disappeared. Because I remembered exactly what she meant. 2 months ago, after another cold visit with my family, Lily had asked why she always felt smaller around them. I held her close and said, "If it ever feels like that again, tell me. And I'll take us away. We don't stay where we're not wanted." Now here she was. Eyes big. Shoulders slumped. Her tiny voice reminding me, "You promised." So I stood up. Walked back to the table. Picked up her plate. "Jenna, what are you doing?" Mom asked, annoyed. I didn't answer. I walked back to Lily, took her hand, and said loud enough for the whole room to hear, "We're leaving. Lily deserves better than the trash corner of your perfect dinner." My mother stood. "Jenna, don't cause a scene." But it was too late. Because the scene had already been made. And 5 minutes later, as we walked out the front door, my mom started screaming. Rejection doesn't begin with one dinner. It begins in pieces. Like learning to make yourself small in rooms that never had a seat for you in the first place. When I was Lily's age, I thought my mom just forgot things. Forgot to pick me up from school. Forgot my favorite foods. Forgot I hated the scratchy sweaters from the thrift store she always made me wear. But later I realized she remembered what she wanted to remember. And what she chose to forget was me. I was the firstborn. The one who held the house together while she rested her nerves on the couch for hours. The one who cleaned up after my younger siblings when Mom went out to clear her head and didn't come back till 2 a.m. When Dad left, she made me the enemy. "He left because of you," she once hissed. "You're too much like him. Cold. Ungrateful." I was 10. By the time I graduated high school, she didn't even show up. Said she had a migraine. But I saw the Facebook photos, wine glass in hand, celebrating her friend's son's birthday across town. I left home the week after. When I met Lily's father, I thought I'd finally created something new. A quiet, simple life. But he was another illusion. When Lily was 4, he walked out too. Same script. Same exit. Different shoes. Only this time I didn't break. I built. Brick by brick. Nursing school. Night shifts. A daycare that didn't ask questions when I paid late. Used furniture. Clearance shoes. Birthday cakes I baked after midnight. And Lily never knew we were struggling. because I refused to let her feel what I had felt. Unchosen. But over the years, I tried, again, to let my family in. For her. For holidays. For the idea that maybe family could still mean something. And every time, they found new ways to remind me we were guests in their lives. Last Easter, Lily painted eggs for everyone. They tossed them in the trash, unopened, after brunch. On her birthday, my mom mailed her a card, but addressed it to Lila. When I called to gently correct it, she snapped. Well, maybe you should have picked a real name. I should have stopped then, but I didn't. Because some scars run so deep, we confuse them for roots. So when I watched Lily, in her red snowflake dress, sit by the trash still trying to smile, it shattered something I didn't know was still holding on. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just turned and whispered, "Can you do the thing you said you'd do?" And this time, I didn't flinch. I didn't beg for a seat at their table. I got up, and I walked away. Because that little girl, she's not going to grow up wondering why no one fought for her. The silence didn't last long. Within 12 hours, my phone lit up like fireworks. First it was my brother. "You embarrass Mom." She was just trying to make it nice for everyone. Then Aunt Sarah. "Next time, maybe speak up earlier if you need special accommodations. It's Christmas, not a therapy session." And finally my mother. A single text. 3 words. "You always ruin." I stared at the screen and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was familiar. Same script. Different scene. They weren't sorry for how they treated Lily. They were just upset I'd finally broken the unspoken contract. Keep your mouth shut. Keep the peace. Keep pretending this is love. But I didn't reply. Not to any of them. Instead, I sat down with Lily that morning over pancakes and cocoa and said, "You know what I realized?" She looked up curious. "I've been trying to fix a family that doesn't think we're broken. And I think it's time we build something else instead." She tilted her head. "Like a new family?" I smiled. "Exactly like that." They called again a few days later. This time it was about the money. You see, when my dad left all those years ago, he gave me one thing. A small trust fund. Nothing huge, but enough to invest, enough to grow. I never touched it during the hard years. Instead, I used it to buy a duplex outright when the market dipped. One side for me and Lily. The other? Rented out, fully paid. Cash flow steady. Then came the consulting gig. Remote work for a healthcare firm. Flexible hours, solid pay. And I didn't tell anyone. Because peace is better when it's quiet. But my mother remembered that account. And when she couldn't get sympathy, she tried for control. "We're in a bit of a tight spot," she said in a voicemail. "Your cousin can't afford grad school now, and well, since you're not using all that money." I blocked the number. The next call came from a lawyer. Apparently, they were trying to claim I owed shared family debt from a business my uncle started, and failed. It was ridiculous. But they filed anyway. Just to rattle me. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to pull me back in. But I had something they didn't. Receipts. And peace of mind. That same week, I enrolled Lily in a creative art program she'd always dreamed of. Bought her new supplies. Watched her light up like I hadn't seen in months. "Are we okay now?" she asked one night. I pulled her close. "We're better than okay. We're finally free." And as the calls from my family faded into threats, then silence, I realized something chilling. They weren't mad because I left. They were mad because I didn't fall apart without them. They always save their ugliest tricks for last. A few weeks passed. Then, just when Lily and I were finally starting to breathe, I received an email from my old employer. "We received an anonymous complaint questioning your license status." Attached was a screenshot of a bogus Reddit thread accusing me of medical negligence. I knew exactly where it came from. And I knew exactly who wrote it. They couldn't tear me down as a daughter. So now they were trying to ruin me as a professional. I called the licensing board myself. Cleared it within minutes. But that wasn't the point. The point was they were digging. Clawing. Because I'd finally stopped being the quiet one. The helper. The disposable peacekeeper. That night, I sat with Lily again. We made tea and sat on the floor with her sketchbook. She showed me a picture she'd drawn. Two girls holding hands under an umbrella while a storm raged around them. She said, "It's us. The umbrella is when you said we didn't have to go back." And I cried. Because even at 9, she understood what most adults refuse to see. That sometimes the most radical thing a woman can do is refuse to stay in the storm just to make others comfortable. I realized then, I wasn't done. I didn't want vengeance. But I did want protection for every other girl who grew up thinking she had to earn her family's love. So I reached out to a friend who ran a mentorship group for teen girls aging out of foster care. I shared my story. Quietly, anonymously. They asked me to speak at a small event. Then another. Suddenly, I wasn't just surviving. I was passing the umbrella. But my family wasn't finished. One evening, Lily and I returned home from her art show. A police cruiser was parked outside. A wellness check. My mother had called in a report that she had reason to believe I was unstable and putting my daughter at risk. They thought they could scare me into compliance. But I welcomed the officers inside, showed them everything, answered every question calmly. When they left, one of them said, "I'm sorry you're dealing with this. She seems like an amazing kid." I just nodded, because I was done explaining myself. The next morning, I filed a restraining order. No more chances. No more second invites to ruin my daughter's peace. In the days that followed, something unexpected happened. I got a message request from a distant cousin, Rachel, someone I barely knew. She wrote, "I saw what they did. I'm not brave enough to walk away. But watching you made me believe I could." And it hit me. I hadn't just protected Lily. I'd cracked something open for other women who'd been cast aside, made small, taught to tolerate being trash-canned at their own family table. So I kept going. And every time my mom sent a passive-aggressive email, every time an extended family member said I should let it go, I just looked at my daughter and thought, she will never wonder if she's too much. She'll know she was always just enough. It all came undone when they try to go public. Desperation makes people loud. And when narcissists lose control privately, they attempt character assassination publicly. My cousin Jeff posted a long status on Facebook. Some people think they're better than family. They forget who raised them, who paid their bills. Then they turn their kids against us and play victim. There were pictures from old birthdays, dinners, holidays, every moment they ever used as proof that we had it good. They wanted sympathy, validation. What they got instead? A lawsuit. I hadn't planned to go that far. But when your child's face is weaponized in a post seen by hundreds, when strangers start messaging you about neglect and ungratefulness, you don't just walk away. You fight clean. And you fight smart. I sent one message to a friend who worked in family law. We filed a cease and desist immediately. Digital defamation. Unauthorized use of a minor's likeness. And we attached every receipts folder I'd quietly kept for years. Text threads, voicemails, screenshots, bank transfers. Because I hadn't just walked away. I'd walked away prepared. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening in my inbox. I started getting messages from girls I went to high school with, old neighbors, even 2 former coworkers of my mom. I just saw the post. "I always wondered why you were so quiet." She did the same to me. "You're brave." I never had the nerve. Turns out, silence has a way of attracting allies once you finally break it. As for Lily, she bloomed. After the viral post, I sat her down and asked if she wanted to talk about any of it. She said, "I don't really care what they say. They already showed me who they are." I hugged her so tightly. "You're not mad?" I asked. She shrugged. "No, just proud. You promised we'd leave if it felt bad. And you kept your promise." That same week, I was invited to speak at a women's rights nonprofit. Not about the legal stuff, but about what happens when girls grow up thinking they're too much and still refuse to shrink. Afterward, a woman came up to me crying. "I haven't spoken to my daughter in 3 years. I don't want to be like your mom. Do you think she'd want to hear from me? That broke me. Because for once, my pain had built a bridge, not a wall. As for my family, their public stunt backfired. The same people they were trying to impress started distancing themselves. A few even left comments like, "This is family business, and it's ugly. Maybe she walked away for a reason." And just like that, the power they once had? Gone. They weren't feared. They weren't revered. They were just loud and alone. Healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's what doesn't happen. The phone that doesn't ring. The seat you don't beg for anymore. The family group chat you're no longer in and don't miss at all. But just when I thought it was over, an envelope arrived. No sender name. No return address. Inside, a gold embossed invitation to my brother's wedding. Lily watched me open it. "Are we going?" I looked at her. Her eyes steady now, stronger than they used to be. "Do you want to?" She shrugged. "Not if they're going to treat us like furniture again." I smiled. "Then no, we're not going." But then I read the fine print. Formal blessing ceremony to honor our late father's estate. And that's when I realized they didn't send this as an olive branch. They sent it as a trap. Because my name was still on one small part of that estate. And they needed me present, or at least compliant, to finalize what they wanted. I spoke to a lawyer that same afternoon. He confirmed it. They couldn't access a trust left behind by my father unless all living children attended or gave written consent. Which meant they needed me. Now, I could have refused. I could have let them stew in paperwork and court delays. But something deeper stirred in me. Not revenge. Not ego. Something quieter. Like the need to show Lily how to face the ghosts that once tried to silence you. So I said yes. On one condition. "We'll attend," I told the estate lawyer. "But I want my daughter seated at the head table. Not beside the trash. Not behind a post. Right next to me. In full view." The day of the ceremony arrived. Lily wore a simple navy dress. Hair tied back. Small pin on her chest that read, "I decide where I sit." We walked in together. And oh, the faces. My mother's smile was tight, strained, her jaw clenched like she'd bitten down on a lemon. "You look different," she said. "Happy?" I offered. She didn't reply. As the ceremony began, my brother gave a long speech about family unity. I didn't flinch. I didn't clap. Then came the blessing moment, where each sibling was asked to sign a ceremonial agreement representing shared values. When it was my turn, I walked to the mic and said, "I don't believe in this family's definition of unity. Because unity doesn't look like silence. It doesn't seat a child next to a trash can and call it tradition. So I'll be signing something else, a donation." I pulled out a document. "This is a $10,000 pledge to a foundation for children who age out of toxic households. In honor of every girl who thinks her worth depends on how much she endures." And I handed the mic back. The room? Silent. Except Lily, who stood and clapped once. Just once. And the sound cracked the air. When you finally stop chasing love that hurts, it starts chasing you. But sometimes it shows up in strange ways. The morning after the blessing ceremony, I woke to a knock on the door. It was barely light out. Lily was still asleep, curled up next to her sketchbook on the couch. I opened the front door slowly. A cardboard box sat on the porch. No note. No delivery label. Just our last names scrawled on top in permanent marker. I hesitated. Inside, a small photo album. A few old necklaces. And a letter. From my dad. I hadn't seen his handwriting in years. He died quietly, without fanfare. My mother never even told me the day he passed. I heard it secondhand from an old neighbor. But this letter had a date on it. 6 years ago. To Jenna. If you're reading this, I probably failed in more ways than I can count. I didn't protect you like I should have. I saw what was happening. I saw how your mother treated you. And I stayed quiet, thinking I was keeping the peace. But silence is just another kind of betrayal. This house, this life, it was never meant to be a cage for you. I left a portion of my estate in trust because I wanted you to have a choice. Not to forgive. Not to forget. but to build something better. Love. Dad. I sat on the porch for a long time. Birds chirped. Wind moved through the trees like the world had already forgiven itself. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't feel it, but because I'd already mourned the father I never really had. Now I just made peace with the one he tried and failed to become. Later that day, Lily found the necklace. A simple chain. A tiny carved pendant shaped like a star. "Was this yours?" she asked. I shook my head. "No. It was meant for you. Even if you didn't know it." She put it on without a word. Sometimes children know how to carry legacy better than adults. That week, something strange started happening. More letters. Small notes from women in town. Neighbors. Even an old teacher. "I heard what you said at the wedding. It was brave. You always seemed quiet, but I see now, you were surviving. My daughter needed to hear your words. Thank you." One afternoon, I found Lily repainting the folding chair that started it all. She had pulled it from our garage, set it in the yard, painted it bright yellow, with sunflowers curling up the legs. "What are you doing with that old thing?" I asked. She looked up, smiling. "Making it mine." And just like that, the past had no power. That chair didn't carry shame anymore. It carried her story. Closure doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like a new address. A yellow-painted chair on a sunny porch. And a girl laughing loudly, without checking who's listening. A year passed. Lily turned 10. She grew taller, braver, funnier. She still wore the little star necklace some days. And she never once asked about the people who used to call themselves family. One afternoon, she came home from school with a folded flyer. "They're looking for volunteers for the Christmas drive," she said. "Can we help this year?" It took me a second to realize what she meant. Last Christmas, we were at the trash can. This Christmas, we were setting the table. We signed up, not just to donate, but to organize. We collected clothes, wrapped gifts, packed meals. Lily made cards. Hundreds of them. Each one said, "You matter." Not because someone says so, but because you always did. I didn't write those words. She did. And that's when I realized something powerful. She had healed in places I never even noticed were broken. Then came a letter in the mail. This time, from my mother. Just 2 lines. "We heard about what you're doing. If you ever want to talk, the door's open." I didn't respond. Not because I was bitter, but because I was busy building. 3 weeks later, Lily and I held a small Christmas dinner for girls from the local shelter. There were 14 guests. We had cookies, cocoa, music. And at the head of the table was the chair. The one they once made her sit on. Still yellow. Still blooming with sunflowers. Every girl who walked in that night touched it, like it was holy. And at one point, a teen named Raya whispered, "I used to be the girl by the trash too." Lily heard her. She reached out, took her hand, and said, "Not anymore." I stood in the kitchen, watching them, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the kind you beg for, the kind you build. In the final scene of our life's quiet revolution, I take a photo. Lily, sitting proudly in her yellow chair. A circle of girls around her. Each one smiling. Seen. Safe. And my voice says, the chair didn't break her. It crowned her. They tried to make her small, but she chose to take up space anyway. And this time, she didn't have to ask. She made her own table.